Welcome to today's deep dive. We are so glad you're here.
Absolutely.
Because honestly, whether you are, prepping for some massive tech meeting or you're just desperately trying to catch up on the whole crypto craze, or maybe you're just insanely curious about where the internet is actually heading, you are in exactly the right place.
You really are. The goal here is to just kind of cut through the noise. There is so much buzz around these topics.
Oh, so much buzz.
Right. But we want to focus on the actual mechanics, how this technology functions, and why it actually matters to you.
And to do that, our sole focus for this deep dive is an extensive look at some really fascinating excerpts from Dr. Seoyoung Kim's work. The book is called Defi for Dummies.
It's like a great breakdown.
It really is. So our mission today is simple. We are going to strip away all the intimidating jargon of decentralized finance, which is what DeFi stands for, extract the most surprising insights, and figure out how to actually navigate this space.
It is such a fascinating subject to tear apart. Because this deep dive won't just explain what DeFi is. We're going to look at why it matters. We're moving entirely beyond the hype, the volatile price charts and the sensational headlines.
Which is what everyone focuses on.
Exactly. We want to look at the underlying technology. At its core, this tech is fundamentally changing how we track ownership, and more importantly, how we manufacture trust.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting at the very beginning. The evolution of finance.
Right.
When you look at the baseline of human trade, primitive DeFi is something we've been doing for thousands of years. It's just old school peer-to-peer bartering, trading your apples for your neighbor's shoes.
Exactly.
No central bank, no overarching authority telling you what an apple is worth.
Right, but that primitive model hits a massive scalability wall. You can't exactly barter with someone on the other side of the planet.
No, you really can't.
And hiding your gold under a mattress isn't a viable long-term strategy for wealth preservation. So that scalability problem is why centralized finance, or CeFi, was born.
Makes sense.
Humans fundamentally needed a trusted intermediary, like a bank, to safeguard their wealth and to verify the transfer of funds over long distances securely.
Which makes intuitive sense. If I want to send money across the world, I need an institution to verify I actually have those funds.
Exactly.
But the source material points out exactly why trust in these central authorities isn't universal. And this is where the geopolitical reality of finance hits really hard.
It really does.
If you are in a developing nation, a bank run isn't just some theoretical economics concept. It's a terrifying reality.
It goes even deeper than that. Think about sudden regime changes causing mass exoduses. The material references stark historical realities where families were displaced and lost absolutely everything.
Yeah.
The capture of Seoul, the fall of Saigon, Kabul, and the invasion of Ukraine.
Just imagine trying to flee a conflict zone. You can't easily carry gold or physical cash without a huge risk of it being confiscated at a border checkpoint.
Right.
And your bank accounts. They are instantly frozen or seized by the invading regime. When your central government collapses, your centralized wealth just vanishes with it.
It's gone overnight.
But with crypto, your entire net worth can be stored in a 12-word phrase memorized in your head. You can cross a border with nothing but your memory and reconstruct your entire financial life on the other side.
Which is incredible.
It is a profound shift in the portability of wealth.
And when we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights a massive privilege inherent in stable economies. It's really easy to trust the bank when the bank has always been there and the government is perfectly stable.
Sure.
But even in wealthy nations, central operators are far from perfect.
Oh, absolutely. Look at the Wells Fargo fake account scandal. Millions of accounts were opened without customer consent, leading to, $3 billion in fines?
Yep, $3 billion.
Or the existence of traditional dark pools.
Oh yeah, those are a great example.
These are anonymous, totally opaque trading markets where massive institutional investors can make billion-dollar trades without any transparency to the public.
None at all.
It proves that even in the safest systems, centralized operators can and do abuse their power.
Which leads us to a fascinating behavioral pattern that the text calls the DeFi-CeFi infinity loop.
The infinity loop.
It's this constant cycle of human nature. People get frustrated with the arbitrary fees, the lack of transparency, or the systemic risks of traditional banking. So they move their assets to a decentralized platform like Bitcoin. They are seeking total uncompromising control over their money.
But then reality sets in.
Exactly. They realize that with total control comes total responsibility.
That is the core friction right there. Because humans are, generally speaking, terrible at being their own banks.
We really are. We forget passwords, our laptops crash, we click on malicious phishing links.
I do that all the time.
Right, so what happens? After seeking financial freedom in DeFi, people experience the sheer anxiety of self-custody.
Yeah.
They get scared of the risks and return to centralized safety by putting their crypto into a centralized vault service or exchange.
They trade their hard-won decentralized freedom right back for centralized customer support.
Exactly. And eventually, they'll get frustrated with that centralized exchange and move right back to DeFi. It is a never-ending loop.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because when people start talking about the risks of DeFi, they almost immediately bring up criminals.
Always.
There is this pervasive public misconception that decentralized finance is just a lawless playground for money launderers and illicit activity.
It is arguably the biggest myth in the entire space, and the mechanics of the technology methodically dismantle it.
Okay, break that down.
The reality is that blockchains are public, permanent, unalterable records. Every single transaction from the genesis of the network to today is memorialized for all time on a public ledger. Tracing illicit crypto is actually magnitudes easier than tracing illicit cash.
Wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. If the ledger is entirely public, doesn't that mean anyone can see exactly how much money is in my wallet? Isn't that a massive privacy nightmare for you as a user?
That's a great distinction to make. Blockchains are pseudonymous, not anonymous.
Okay.
Your wallet address is just a random string of letters and numbers. Anyone can see the balance of that string, sure, but they don't inherently know it belongs to you.
Right.
However, the moment you try to cash out that crypto for fiat currency at a regulated exchange, which requires identity verification, your real-world identity is permanently linked to that wallet's entire transaction history.
And that's exactly where physical cash has the upper hand for criminals. Cash doesn't leave a permanent digital paper trail for everyone in the world to audit.
Exactly. That's why any legitimate entity interacting with crypto uses blockchain analytics firms like Chainalysis.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, these firms scan the public blockchain and assign risk scores to every single wallet. If a wallet is associated with a ransomware attack or a hack, it gets blacklisted globally. Even interacting with a gray-listed wallet lowers your own risk score. As the book notes, spending $10 million in ill-gotten crypto is functionally as impossible as showing up to buy a luxury penthouse with a literal suitcase full of physical cash.
You just can't quietly slip it into the legitimate economy.
You can't.
But the general public doesn't see that technical nuance. The source material calls this the crypto horn effect.
Yes.
It's the cognitive opposite of a halo effect. Because the public sees wild, volatile price swings and negative, sensationalized crypto headlines, the underlying brilliance of the DeFi technology gets unfairly tainted.
Absolutely.
People hear the word crypto and their brain immediately assumes the worst.
And to be fair to the public, that skepticism is heavily validated by the massive adoption hurdles. Let's be real. The user experience in DeFi is currently a nightmare.
Oh, it's terrible.
For the average person, it is incredibly clunky and unintuitive.
There's a perfect example of this adoption hurdle in the book with a Bitcoin ATM or BTM in Zurich.
Right.
You'd think it would be easy, right? It looks just like a standard ATM. You walk up, you put your physical Swiss francs into this machine, and you'd expect a slick digital balance to just pop up on an app on your phone.
Like Apple Pay or something.
Exactly. Instead, the machine spits out a confusing...
Web3, spelled with no space, just a number 3, is the decentralized web. It is built entirely on blockchains and token-based economics. Its primary goal is to strip data ownership and power away from massive tech monopolies and hand it directly back to the users.
Okay, so where does Web 3.0 fit in?
Web 3.0, often referred to as the semantic web, is simply the next evolutionary step of the internet we currently use. It's a smarter, AI-driven web focused on machine learning, natural language processing, and interconnectivity between devices. It does not inherently focus on decentralization or blockchain.
Got it. Web 3 is about ownership. Web 3.0 is about AI and data connectivity.
Precisely.
Okay, next piece of jargon, DAOs. Decentralized autonomous organizations. How do these actually function without just descending into absolute chaos?
A DAO is essentially a leaderless community that is governed entirely by mathematically coded rules. There is no board of directors, there's no CEO. Decisions are made by members voting with governance tokens, and once a vote passes, the code executes the decision automatically. And what's fascinating here is a specific point the source makes regarding the original cryptocurrency. Bitcoin itself is actually a battle-tested trillion-dollar DAO.
That is wild to conceptualize. A trillion-dollar global entity with zero central leadership. It governs itself, secures itself, and updates itself purely through the incentive structures hard-coded right into its protocol.
It really is wild.
All right, what about cryptocurrencies versus NFTs?
It all boils down to an economic concept called fungibility.
I love the analogy used in the book to explain this. Fungibility is simply about whether items are interchangeable. Cryptocurrencies are fungible. They are like dollar bills.
Right.
You do not care which specific $1 bill you have in your wallet. You only care about the total amount you possess. One Bitcoin is completely indistinguishable from another Bitcoin, but NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, are entirely unique. They are like concert tickets.
It's the perfect way to look at it. With a concert ticket, you absolutely care which specific one you hold. One ticket grants you front row VIP access, another puts you in the nosebleeds behind a giant concrete pillar. Even though they're both tickets to the same event, they are unique digital items with entirely different values.
So how do we measure success in a space with all these different assets? When I turn on financial news, analysts are always screaming about market cap and daily trading volume.
Relying on those traditional metrics for DeFi is fundamentally flawed. Market cap and volume might tell you about speculative interest, but they don't tell you if people are actually using the technology. Instead, the metric that truly matters is PVL, or total value locked.
Let's pause on that for a second, because TVL involves smart contracts. For someone who hears that term thrown around constantly, what is a smart contract actually doing to lock that value?
A smart contract is simply a piece of self-executing code stored on the blockchain. Think of it like a digital vending machine. If you input the required funds, the machine automatically dispenses the asset. No human intervention required. TVL measures the actual sum of capital that users have willingly deposited into these working smart contracts to earn yield or provide liquidity.
So it's the difference between speculation and utility.
Exactly.
Going back to the concert ticket analogy, market cap tells you how many people bought tickets just to scalp them later on the secondary market. TVL tells you how many people actually walked through the venue doors to attend the show.
Exactly that. TVL strips away the noise and shows you the real functional adoption of the protocol.
All right, let's get our hands dirty. The mechanics of how you actually interact with these platforms are crucial. And the first major fork in the road is deciding between a custodial and a non-custodial platform.
We can map this directly to real-world behaviors. A custodial platform, like Coinbase or Binance, functions like a consignment shop.
Right.
You take your valuable assets, you hand them over to the shop owner, and you trust them to hold on to those goods and execute trades on your behalf. They maintain full custody of your private keys.
But a non-custodial platform, like setting up a MetaMask wallet, is like selling an item on eBay. You keep your assets locked inside your own house, under your absolute control, right up until the exact microsecond the digital sale occurs. You never surrender custody to a middleman.
And choosing to set up that non-custodial MetaMask wallet is the moment you truly cross the threshold into the Web3 space.
Yes. Setting it up as a browser extension seems deceptively simple at first. You download it, you create a standard password, but then you hit the absolute most critical step in all of crypto, the secret recovery phrase.
This raises an incredibly important point about the reality of personal security in this space. This 12-word secret recovery phrase is your master key. It is the cryptographic representation of your ownership.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is that this is not a cloud-based password.
Yeah.
You cannot click a forgot password link and have an automated email sent to you. If your laptop gets thrown in a lake or you simply lose the piece of paper where you wrote those 12 words down, the MetaMask support team cannot help you.
Your assets are permanently inaccessible.
Permanently.
I was trying to wrap my head around how secure these 12 words actually are against brute force attacks. If a hacker somehow intercepts my 12 words, but doesn't know the exact order I wrote them in, isn't it relatively easy for a computer program to just guess the sequence?
Well, what's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the mathematics involved. If an attacker has your exact 12 words but needs to find the correct permutation, the math for that is 12 factorial.
Which is huge.
That equates to exactly 1,600 possible combinations.
Nearly 500 million combinations. To a human sitting at a keyboard trying to guess that is impossible.
Right.
But for a hacker's algorithm, crunching 500 million combinations takes milliseconds. So the sequential order of those words is just as vital as the words themselves. It is a terrifying amount of responsibility. One mistake, one leaked phrase, and it's all gone.
And this brings us right back to the infinity loop we discussed earlier.
Oh, true.
The burden of absolute financial sovereignty is incredibly heavy. This level of unforgiving responsibility is exactly why so many users retreat back to the safety net of custodial solutions.
But there is a way to learn the ropes without the sheer terror of vaporizing your life savings. Testnets.
Yes, testnets are a crucial public good in this ecosystem. Networks like Sepolia or Goerli are essentially sandbox environments. They are identical, functioning copies of the main Ethereum blockchain, but the tokens used on them hold absolutely zero real-world value.
So it's safe.
Listeners can visit specific websites called faucets and request fake test ETH to be sent to their wallets.
It's like playing Monopoly money on a billion-dollar infrastructure.
Right.
You can practice signing smart contracts, connecting your wallet to decentralized apps, and intentionally making mistakes to see what happens, all with zero financial risk. They are the perfect training wheels before you move over to the main network, which is such a massive relief for anyone starting out. Okay, as we zoom out for our final segment, we have to look at the macroeconomic picture. We've dissected the mechanics, the risks, the jargon. But why does any of this genuinely matter in the long run? Beyond the speculative trading, what are the real-world future applications of this technology?
There is a truly profound insight regarding global economics here. Currently, less than 1/3 of the global population possesses secure, legally recognized property rights.
That's a staggering statistic.
It is. If you live in a developing nation with corrupt or inefficient record keeping, you cannot definitively prove you own your home. If you can't prove ownership, you can't use that property as collateral to secure a loan to start a business or send your kids to school. It severely stunts generational economic growth.
But imagine applying NFT technology to solve that exact bottleneck. Because an NFT is essentially an unalterable, mathematically verifiable digital certificate of authenticity, a government could issue transparent digital land titles directly onto a public blockchain. Suddenly, citizens in emerging economies have an immutable record of their property rights that no corrupt official can alter. They can finally collateralize their homes and access global financial liquidity. That is a life-changing application of tech.
And sometimes the evolutionary path to those life-changing applications looks completely absurd at first glance.
You're talking about the digital cats.
I am absolutely talking about the digital cats. We have to understand the concept of innovation for innovation's sake.
Okay.
Decades ago, mathematicians dedicated their lives to studying pure number theory, just for the sheer artistic merit of the math. To the outside world, it seemed utterly useless. But that pure theoretical study eventually laid the foundation for RSA encryption, which is the exact cryptographic standard that secures almost all data transmission and e-commerce on the internet today.
And there is a direct parallel from that to things like CryptoKitties or the Mutant Ape Yacht Club.
Yeah.
To an outsider, these are just digital collectibles. They look like overpriced, pixelated JPEGs. But by creating these massive viral projects that millions of people interact with simultaneously, developers are actively battle testing the real-world feasibility of handling massive amounts of unique digital assets on a live blockchain network.
It's proving the concept.
Right. The infrastructure supporting digital cats today is proving the technology works at scale so that tomorrow we can securely manage those digital land titles.
The underlying mechanics of DeFi also offer massive upgrades for traditional financial markets. We discussed dark pools earlier, where institutions can secretly front-run trades. DeFi has the potential to completely neutralize that.
Let's break down front-running for a second. In traditional finance, front-running is essentially an unethical broker seeing your massive order about to go through, cutting in line to buy the asset first, and then instantly selling it back to you at a slightly higher price to pocket a risk-free profit. Right.
Exactly, and the mathematics of decentralized dark pools can theoretically eliminate that entirely by cryptographically hiding the trade details until the transaction is irreversibly finalized on the block. Additionally, DeFi introduces concepts like automated flash loans.
Flash loans are wild. It's an uncollateralized loan of millions of dollars that only exists for a single microsecond.
Yes.
The smart contract essentially says, I will lend you this money, but only if your intended trade is profitable enough to pay me back within this exact same transaction block. If the trade fails, the smart contract just aborts, and the loan simply unhappens like it never existed.
It is a perfect example of code enforcing trust. These mechanics democratize delayed settlements and arbitrage opportunities, giving retail traders access to the same powerful financial tools that Wall Street institutions have historically hoarded for themselves.
It is a complete leveling of the financial playing field. All right, to wrap up our deep dive today, look how far we've traveled. We started with ancient neighbors bartering apples. We explored the mechanics of a $1 trillion leaderless DAO. We decoded the jargon separating Web 3 from Web 3.0. And we walked through the terrifying mathematical reality of securing a 12-word seed phrase.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. If you are listening to this, I commend you. You took the time to truly understand the underlying mechanics of this technology rather than just scrolling past the overwhelming headlines. You are now equipped with the context needed to navigate the reality of decentralized finance.
And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as we sign off. We've spent a lot of time discussing how this technology allows us to perfectly tokenize and mathematically secure property, art, and capital without relying on a central authority. But what happens when we start tokenizing human reputation? Imagine a near future where your financial credit score, your professional resume, and your civic identity are issued as immutable, non-fungible tokens on a public ledger. How does a society function when trust isn't just assumed through a handshake or a background check, but is mathematically hard-coded into our very identities?
Now, that is a truly wild future to try and imagine. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and we will catch you next time.